born in Fulton, raised in the Fulton area. Our family goes back 5 generations. We still actually own the main piece of property that was part of the farms that my grandfather's father came here in the mid 1800s. Once we get to a containerized cargo, an individual could go online, find items that they would like to resell in central Missouri or in the United States. I mean, we could have entire industries built around what we can import now via the rivers, intercoastal riverway, and be competitive with the people who live on the east and west coast. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a whole nother area that it's not even available to us right now in central Missouri. Well, there's USDA has some grant money that's available to this type of project. Economic development, the state economic development, and Department of Agriculture. Everybody has interest in how well our port does and the types of customers that we can attract. Being a port authority, we are in a position to work with any entity that wants to participate. I would like to see it used, I want to see this as a public port where private individuals, companies, the grain guys can ship grain. Anybody would be able to use the port for some type of a minimal fee. If we do a slackwater harbor, there would be land there that an industry could lease a piece of property and actually put in a larger facility, milling and processing, and then load out their own products onto the barges, Well, I was absolutely encouraged by the numbers that were in the report. What really excites me is when we start talking about tonnages. I felt like they had underestimated the tonnages that we're capable of doing through our port. Some of the private ports up and down the Missouri River were not included in that survey. So I feel like there's probably 50% more tonnage being moved on the river than what that report states, because they're going through private ports. Well, we have to start someplace. It's kind of like a chicken and the egg. I mean, if you don't have a port, you don't know what kind of industry you can bring to it. But what we do know is there is strong interest by industry throughout central Missouri. In all the counties that you've mentioned, there are people that we've talked to that are interested in knowing more about the port, that they would consider shipping things on the port, but they want to know what the costs are going to be. And right now, I can't give you those hard numbers. I think it'll be across the board. I mean, you're always going to have your ancillary industries. You're going to have the restaurants and the gas stations and things like that, which you may consider low wages. Once the minimum wage is increased, are they still low wages? If we are able to start moving the kind of tonnage through here that I believe we will, I think we're going to attract another truck stop or larger gas places that will probably also offer food. It's unlimited is what we can do. If we start a good port here and we get our rates where the industries like it, we're going to have an industrial park. And once we have an industrial park, then we're going to have housing, and we're going to have all those jobs that come along with building houses and communities. The largest economic driver would be our Callaway nuclear plant, which we wouldn't have hardly, I can't see where we would benefit from the Callaway nuclear plant. But we do have a lot of industry in Fulton area that do metal fabrication. And we've got Harvest and Walker, they do clay processing. So we have a mineral processor, someone who takes a raw material and enhances its value into other products and then it's shipped out. Hopefully we'll be able to develop a relationship with those so we can bring raw materials in, have it processed, and then load it back out of here as a finished product going to other parts of the country. If we can get an international trade zone established here in the Jefferson City area with using the airport, it's only a mile. It's almost within sight. If it wasn't for a few trees, we'd be able to see it from here. We've got the state capitol. We've got a lot of opportunity if we become an international trade zone. There will be companies all over the world that would look at us as being in the heartland of the United States. And everyone in the world would like to have an outpost here, an office, and see if there's a possibility for them to establish a positive business in the United States at this location? Well, again, we would have to look at products that we actually mine or grow here. So we have the opportunity to have a grain milling operation. We have an opportunity to do clay processing and mine minerals. We actually have some industrial sand here in Callaway County that they use for fracking in the fracking and oil and gas industry. That is here, it's not currently being mined. One of the reasons is there's not an inexpensive way to get it in and out of here and to the customers which it would serve. Using the river, it becomes a feasible option. Another thing that we can do, we are an agriculture county. The entire area, the state of Missouri, is highly agriculture based. There's always the possibility that we could, once we get to cargo containers, if we have refrigerated cargo containers, the possibility of having a slaughter facility for beef or pork, that would bring a large number of jobs to the area. But I do know that if we have a central location where we can load and unload these large bulky items and move it on the river inexpensively to its destination, we will become a center hub for all of that industry. They have a positive interest in it. They want to know more. They want to know more about how will it impact their bottom line. Will it help them to get an extra 10 or 20 cents a pound for their cattle? Will it help them get an extra 10 or 20 cents a bushel for their corn and soybeans? I believe the answer is yes to all of those things, because we've reduced the amount of transportation it takes to get to the current markets, which would be in Kansas City or St. Louis. The immediate area around this facility on the north side, I think, is probably going to be restricted to things that are relatively highly mobile. Probably not going to have a lot of industrial buildings or warehouses here, because we are in the river bottom. As opposed to on the south side, there was probably places they could put warehouses and have industry. I'd like to make a proposal one day that would encompass an industrial park on the western side of 54, on the north side of the river, in the area of Old Cedar City and up 63 towards Columbia. I feel like that bottom is prime industrial area, which would also service the needs of the ports on both sides of the river. Well, I'd support either plan. The thing is, I don't think we're looking at a single site. Our Port Authority extends the length of the river on both sides in both counties, Callaway and Cole County, and that's a lot of river frontage. Well, the thing about it is you're looking at two different business models. Currently, the business model on the south side involves having a slackwater harbor and leasing out tracts of land to industry where they would put their facilities on, and they would probably process, onload, and offload their materials on and off barges in a slackwater harbor. In that business scenario, a lot of their cash flow for the Port Authority comes from land leases, and a little bit from loading and unloading of how much material they load and unload. On the north side, it would primarily all encompass being a part of the industrialization of this area, the Port Authority, and helping companies get their material on and off barges, which means we would have a small fee built into the loading and unloading of those items. Absolutely, I think that if we can keep the cost low on the north side and work with companies like OCCI who have existing dockside ports, it saves a significant amount of money, and it provides a greater benefit to the entire region, as far as we're simply trying to load and unload other people's materials on and off the river barges. Columbia and Boone County has expanded and developed through the university systems. It's really helped that entire area. It has bled over into the Millersburg area, which is western Callaway County, also in my jurisdiction. If we had the right deal, we could start doing business out of here in 2 months. Loading and unloading items, if we knew what that item was. It depends on what it is. If we have to put in infrastructure to load grain, then you're going to have that delay, and you're going to have to figure out where the money's going to come from. Is the industry or the business that wants to use it, are they going to foot the bill to put the infrastructure and the conveyors in? Who's going to put in the scale? Well, I absolutely feel like it helps justify any other kind of grants or other businesses that want to invest here, you know, in their in infrastructure in the new site on the south side. And then it becomes a reality. Right now, it's all a lot of people are talking, a lot of people feel good, and everybody knows it can be a reality. But once that hits home, it's kind of like someone, we're waiting on the Christmas turkey, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there and they actually bring the turkey out, put it on the plate, and you fill your plate. I mean, it's becomes a reality. We have a port authority now. And a year ago, we didn't have a port authority. We were just hoping we could justify it, that we were in the beginning stages a year ago. And now the port authority is a reality. We are going to have a port. We're going to start loading and unloading items, and hopefully we'll have an international trade zone. You know, I anticipated there's always going to be a naysayer. There's always going to be someone trying to come up with some reason they hate change. People don't like change. They get used to what they have now, good or bad, and change scares people. I think the feasibility study is just the beginning. Once we have the port installed, I anticipate there'll be industry coming of all types from all over the world, and it will last generations. I don't think this is a short-term project at all. Anything that we would do through the harbor here allows companies to ship things anywhere on the inland waterways within the United States. It could go down the Mississippi through the Gulf of Mexico and anywhere in the world. It could go through the Panama Canal to the Asian Pacific coast. It can go to Europe. It can go to Africa, South America. It opens us up for industry worldwide.